This is the NBA Future of the Franchise rankings put out by the Silver Bulletin. And I've actually seen these before. I actually enjoy these. These are great reads. Ranking, as you can guess, all 30 franchises into who has the brightest future. Well, you never guess where the Sacramento Kings ended up.
Oh, God.
Dead
30th?
last.
Yeah.
Good old number 30.
There it is. Getting used to that number.
Here's the explanation. The Kings remain a laughingstock. They've appeared in the playoffs once in 20 years. This year's annual attempt to make that postseason landed so short that they essentially fell backwards into doing what it takes to get better, losing for a better draft pick. In fact, the Kings have the NBA's worst record and best lottery odds. I'd give them more credit if this were planned, but it's basically a function of two things: a lousy roster and an injury to Domantas Sabonis. Given the owner's rather ham-handed use of analytics and questionable decisions about who to put in power, the Kings will probably continue down the path of NBA irrelevancy. That was from Jeremias. Now, Joseph, who's another writer, commentator
From the
in
Jays.
the other J, Joseph, says, I'm slightly more optimistic on the Kings than consensus. Yes, they're the worst team in the NBA, but that's precisely the point. As long as they keep tanking, the floor is the fifth pick. And this draft isn't the big three that mainstream outlets keep pushing. It's more like a big five. The drop-off or unexpected value doesn't hit until pick 6 or 7, which means Sacramento is in line for a great prospect regardless of lottery luck. That alone should put them ahead of New Orleans, who doesn't even own their pick, and Chicago, who seems hell-bent on stacking guards and making the play-in tournament every year. So,
Well,
Kayla.
Who was the second one?
That was Joseph.
What's he smoking?
No? Joseph was the good vibes.
But Joseph doesn't get the full picture that one draft pick this year ain't changing the whole trajectory of this organization.
Hey, let me tell you, if Matt George is walking in to this show the day after the NBA draft and AJ DeBonsa's a Sacramento King, I'm walking in like there's a parade about to happen.
I'm kind of joking. I'm half joking.
But you're also right.
But I'm also like, you got to have a little bit of an optimist, that's going to have better things to say. And he is right. There's something to be excited about when it comes to this draft. Mm-hmm. None of that. I didn't disagree with any of that.
Yep.
But it's like, okay, that's the start. Like, that's one of the starts to what eventually can become a team that's not in the gutter, in the cellar, whatever you want to call it.
Hell.
But what's his name again?
Joseph.
But Joseph, there's a long way to go, Bubby. There's a long way to go.
Be nice to Joseph. He's nice to us. What's funny is on these rankings, right? They put the team in the place that they're at currently, and then they put whether they're trending up, trending down, or just flatline.
Flatline.
Where do you think the Kings are?
Down.
No, they're in last, and they're flatlined. Which means they're here, and they just suck.
They're just like not being resuscitated currently.
They've been there.
I think what Jeremias is getting at, who's the less positive, is how a lot of Kings fans feel. It doesn't really matter what happens, because as long as we continue to make the same mistakes, and I'm using the royal we to talk about the decision makers in the organization, as long as we continue to make the same mistakes, why should we expect it's going to get any different? And that's kind of Jeremiah's take. Yeah, the Kings might end up with the number 1 overall pick. Why should we expect they're going to get that pick right? They'll draft Darren Peterson, and he'll just refuse to play. Or they'll draft A.J. DeBonsa, and Darren Peterson becomes a star, and it should have been Darren Peterson. Or, you idiots, Cam Boozer is right there.
Right.
Or it's going to end up being Kingston Flemings is the best of this draft. Or you didn't draft Caleb Wilson because his hand. Or what, there's always the fear of whatever pick the Kings will make is the wrong pick.
One.
And even if it's the right pick, they'll find a way to mess it up because it's the Kings, right? And while that reputation does annoy me because it's low-hanging fruit, and it oftentimes abandons logic for, well, it's the Kings and it's going to happen, and it's been proven right. That reputation is deserved, owned by this organization who hasn't proven that they can execute a rebuild correctly. So most people, when it comes to the Kings with anything, is I'll believe it when I see it, even with a top draft pick.
It's a really good point, because I do seem to always be the type of person that I do get annoyed when you are put in a category and it's just low-hanging fruit and people keep on punching it. Like, I get annoyed with that type of stuff. But on the other hand, I think about situations where you've kind of put yourself in that position and you have been given opportunities to find a way out, and you keep on making the same mistakes and you're not getting out of that position.
Yeah.
It's like when I was younger and I kept on making the same mistakes and kept on getting grounded and kept on feeling sorry for myself because I was grounded for a week. And then I'm like, but then I'd go do it again.
Yeah.
And it's like, Kayla, what are you
right?
learning? And at some point I did learn and I wasn't grounded anymore. But it's like, until you learn, like, I'm sorry, quit feeling sorry for yourself.
Yeah. You got to learn at some point. And I think the feeling, at least with me, when looking at this organization, is it's never been this bad. If you can't learn from this and how we very clearly, obviously got here, like Alan Stiles, who's coming up with Whitey Gleason on the Drive Guys, coming up next.
You mean Larry?
Larry, sorry.
Stiles.
Apparently, someone calls him Larry.
Right.
Whitey Gleason is spot on. Spot on.
Whitey Gleason is typically spot on, but Alan put something out on social media today that I thought was interesting. It got me to think, because he talked about, like, if I could give truth serum to people in the organization and they could talk and then ask them about, like, what they regret.
Dangerous.
About how we've gotten here, because it could be studied, the fall from grace for the Sacramento Kings from being the best story in the league, and finally they're out of the dark abyss of basketball irrelevancy for one season to now falling to even further down than they've ever been before. Pretty crazy, given all things. Like, they could really, you could write a book about it, and someone probably will. I don't know if it would make anybody feel better. Truthfully, I don't know if it would make anybody feel better to hear Vivek or Monty McNair or Doug Christie or Mike Brown or anybody drink some truth serum and spill their guts and their guilt to the world.
Their what?
Spill their guts and their guilt to the world. Like, just here I am on full display to take all ownership
coming out.
to everything. Yeah. Just everything that's wrong. Sure. It's I take responsibility for it. I don't think that would make anybody feel better at all. But some people would like to hear that. That being said, I would hope that truth serum is not needed for Vivek Ranadive to look to the sudden firing of Mike Brown and the trading of De'Aaron Fox and rushing that trade and allowing Rich Paul and De'Aaron Fox to dictate that trade for you, and also being willing to take on a contract in Zach LaVine's contract that nobody else in the league wanted. I would hope that Vivek could look into the mirror without truth serum and go, I shouldn't have done that. I can't do that mistake again. I need to learn from that. I would hope Doug Christie has had that moment 2 or 3 times over the course of this season. I would hope Scott Perry has had that moment about some of the offseason decisions that he's made. Because the reality is everybody owns some sort of the blame. So if you can't learn from where the Kings are at right now, then you're never going to learn.
Yeah, and I'm interested because you had just kind of mentioned Vivek and looking himself in the mirror, and maybe this is, and again, I understand if you're not on board with this because it's happened time and time again. Why should you be on board with this if you're a Sacramento Kings fan? But it seems to be that maybe this is the point where Vivek did look himself in the mirror and did say, hey, Scott Perry, I'm going to let you do your thing.
Yes.
I'm going to let you do it the way you want. I'm going to let you do, if it is in fact a rebuild, which Scott Perry has not said. Let me just put that on record. He has not said that, but that is what it seems to be. At some point it will be that, even though you have some veteran contracts currently still there and you can't fully do it until those are out. I would hope then eventually fans can come back around and say, okay, maybe Vivek didn't come out and admit all this stuff, because let me tell you something. Owner ain't never going to do that. While I think it would heal some people just to admit it, I don't know how that would solve many problems. You got to just have it done by actions.
Yeah.
And I think if he truly did do that and allows Scott to do his job, we could have another conversation that's finally different 3 years, 4 years down the road.
Yeah. This is a incredibly optimistic spin on where the Sacramento Kings are at right now, coming from someone who used to be known as the blind optimist here in Sacramento, that has taken a jump off the diving board into the
Did you hit your head?
No, Mike Brown was fired, and I jumped into the sea of despair with this organization. Truly, since that day. Truly, since the day Mike Brown was fired, it was like my villain arc began. That day, almost everything about this organization has disgusted me, and unfortunately, I've been right about almost everything
That's your Joker
that
origin story?
That is my Joker origin story.
Oh.
Mike Brown got fired, and that's how I got these scars.
Yeah.
But allow me to put a very optimistic spin on this situation that I don't expect to make anybody else feel better. And if you roll your eyes at this, I don't even blame you for this. There is a chance that the Sacramento Kings right now are at the lowest point of the best case scenario. And what I mean by that is Vivek tried to do it his way completely. Vivek has always had, ownership has always had a little bit of too much. Their hand has been in the cookie jar a little bit too much in his entire tenure.
Or there's been too many people in the cook's kitchen.
Correct. Too many chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yes, there have always been elements of this through the now decade plus that Vivek has been here, and that's always resulted in little failures, little things.
Yeah.
What from the Mike Brown decision to the Fox trade to the Levine decision, everything that happened last year is the worst that Vivek and this ownership group has ever done, and they have to wear it. However, we talk about necessary evils, right? Where's the best case scenario in this? You hired Scott Perry. Scott's made his own mistakes here and there, but made these mistakes in an effort to, I think, correct the problem that ownership created. This season is playing out the owner's vision. That's what this season is. The owner's vision is playing out in real time, and it's turned out to be the worst team in franchise history. If ownership cannot learn from what is happening right now, then they'll never learn, period. But hopefully, because I know there are brilliant people in that organization. Whether you like them or not, they are brilliant people, and they're also good people. There are some good people with good intentions, of course, in this organization as well that are involved in this, who just want to win, who simply just want to win.
I'm sure everyone wants to win.
Right.
Right?
Hell is paved, the path to hell, road to hell is paved by good intentions, right? They are now seeing in real time, I made this move. I made this decision. I pushed for this path, this short term, we got to make the playoffs via the plan by any means necessary, and it is blown up in my face. I made that choice. This season has to play out in order for me to, one, fully understand the repercussions of that short-sighted move, but it may produce flowers. It may produce fruit in the form of a top draft pick that gets you that star to save you from yourself.
Yeah.
That is a very optimistic spin.
Yeah. So no. I get what you're saying. So my question to you is, do you truly think that when Scott Perry was hired by Vivek, that Scott was presented like, hey, we're gonna try this one more time with this, like, let's add Schroeder. Let's try one more time to see if we can be a play. And then if it doesn't go right, Scott, I'm going to let you do your thing. Do you think there was like initial conversation, or do you think it's just something where he kind of brought in Perry, thought, oh, Perry will go along with this, and if it doesn't work, maybe we'll just continue to, like, are we sure this has been a conversation where then Scott is truly then going to be given the opportunity to blow this what up?
I've had the pleasure of having conversations with Scott off the record.
Yeah.
Meeting him, getting to know him off the
Sure.
record. One of the things I asked Scott, and I won't reveal his answers directly because it's off the record, but one of the things I asked Scott directly is, why are you taking this job?
Okay.
Like, why are you taking this job? He doesn't have to. It's one of 30 NBA jobs, regardless of how bad the Kings are. Let's put it this way. Scott is very aware of the situation that he took over. I think it's been made pretty clear, too, from Scott's comments publicly in different press conferences and different interviews on this station, that Scott made sure to get assurances that this was going to take time and that he was going to be the one with full autonomy and full decision-making power. So to answer your question, Kayla, I think the answer is Scott had no choice with the roster that he inherited when he took this job than to try and make the most out of these next 2 seasons because he saw what we all saw, which is I've got these contracts that I'm going to try as hard as I possibly can to get rid of, but I probably won't be able to. So as long as they're still here, maybe I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone and try and make the playoffs via the play-in, try and take advantage of these next 2 years while these contracts run out, try and get Doug Christie to develop as a head coach and get some of that experience under his belt as a winning head coach or a playoff head coach, while getting Nate Clifford and Maxime Reynaud maybe a little bit of experience being a role player on a playoff or play-in team. Maybe I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone that way. But I have no choice with this roster that you've handed me than to go that route. And I think the Dennis Schroeder move and the Russell Westbrook signing are very clear indications of that the Kings were, people, I expected this team to be bad. You did not expect this team to lose 15 straight games and have 12 wins at this point in the season. You did not. Nobody did, because we thought this team was going to be competing for the play-in. That doesn't mean we were excited about it, but we thought that was the route that they were going to be in, which, again, is arguably worse than where they're at right now in terms of the long-term vision. Perry has now pivoted because the Kings obviously have no choice but to pivot because things have gone so terribly wrong. Mm-hmm. So I think that I hope that answers your question, at least from what I understand it to be.
It does. And I think now it's just like this is where you're going to be able to, you're not going to be able to, you're going to have to sit back as a fan, as uncomfortable and as awful and horrendous as it is, and you're going to have to give not only Scott a chance, but you're going to have to give Vivek a chance to prove that maybe he has completely given the keys to the car to Scott Perry.
Yes.
There's going to have to be some trust involved. And I know that is painful to hear.
Yes, exactly.
But you have to.
Exactly. What the organization is asking from their fans is faith and patience. And for them to ask that of this fan base is insane.
Yep.
But it's the reality of where we're at. And I don't blame a single Kings fan, whether you've been in the trenches for the 40-plus years that they've been here, or you started watching with the Beam team and all you know was the joy of the beginning and now the avalanche since. Whatever level of fandom you are as a Sacramento Kings fan, I do not blame you one bit for saying, I cannot give you that. Mm-hmm. You have not earned that.
But where are you putting yourself then in this whole thing as a fan?
You're
purgatory.
Bingo. You have to either give that faith and trust reluctantly or happily or whatever you need to do to be able to give it to this organization, or you need to divorce yourself in a sense where
go down to the courts.
You can see, you can follow, you can watch, but you don't feel anything.
Or you don't watch.
Or you don't watch.
You don't participate until they're good again.
Yeah.
Or you
and that's again, your right to do.
100%. If you tune out for a little while, they have my time is meaningful, plus the amount of money it costs just to attend one of your games. I'm going to do something else with my time. That does not make you a worse fan. And let me tell you, it does not make you a bandwagoner if you come back 4 years from now when the Kings are finally good and I'm buying tickets. I'm going to be a season ticket holder again. One, your prices will be hiked back up. But two,
that's the disadvantage.
That doesn't make you a bandwagon fan.
No, I don't think so either. Not from what this fan base has gone through.
If you're checked out, there's one thing Kings fans can never be accused of, and that's being disloyal. Yeah. But we can only go so far.
I mean, we can't blame a bear for going into hibernation.
Right.
Go into hibernation for a minute.
If you need to take a nap, and a long nap.
Set the alarm for 4 years.
Get the snooze button ready. Well, if you need to take a nap during the NBA season for the next few years until this organization wakes you up, I don't blame you one bit for that. But if you're going to be, and I'm talking to myself here too, Matt, if you're going to be doing this job and in here for the long haul and here piece by piece, which you have to be because you're being paid, bozo, you have to give the faith and the patience that is required for Perry to do this right. And it's gross to even have to acknowledge that.
Is.
But it's where we're at.
Well, I think the other part, too, is like, obviously this is hugely emotional for so many people, and people get their hearts into the sports in general, but specifically with this team and wanting to see it succeed.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if we like strip away all that nuance, like these are transactional relationships. You give the organization money, you get an experience, or you get a piece of merchandise or whatever it is. Like, you don't have to give that transaction if you don't feel like you're getting enough out of the transaction. That whether the team is good or whether the team is bad, like that's a transactional relationship that you don't have to keep enduring if you're a fan.
From the someone from the 916, without any words, no context, but I know exactly what they're saying.
Gosh.
Just posted the GIF of Lucy pulling the football away from Charlie Brown, who misses the kick. And I understand exactly what they're saying. No words necessary.
For sure. I'm sure you could use lots of gifts to express fandom right now in Sacramento.
From the 916, Guts and Guilt would be the name of the King's book. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
a good
that
one.
Was you talking about spilling your guts?
Spilling your
For
guts.
sure.
That's
Guts and guilt. I like
that's the
that.
terminology. Spill your guts. Like you profess your guilt to the world. You're spilling your secrets. Again, I'm sure Al. I'm actually really interested to. Maybe I'll ask during crosstalk as long as I don't spoil.
Did they have that conversation yesterday? The
No,
truth serum?
Alan said it on. He tweeted it out today, and I
Oh,
thought
I think
that's a really interesting segment
Yeah.
for the radio that I would steal if I wasn't Alan's friend.
And you didn't steal it.
I didn't steal, but I acknowledge it. I gave you credit, Alan.
Well,
He ain't
no,
listening.
there's still time. I
He
mean, we
ain't
can.
listening. But the point is that there's a lot of soul searching that needs to happen from everybody in and around this organization right now. Yours truly included, who's been in here for the long haul. Like soul searching, can I handle what it's going to take? And is Scott Perry the right person for the cleanup? Does he have the right tools to clean this up the right way? Does ownership have the right patience, and are they humble enough to acknowledge that their over-involvement is what got them here, and getting over-involved is counterproductive to where they want to get?
I think that's the bigger question, and I could be wrong. Who do you have more faith in? I think more people would say Scott Perry if they they could give their grace to someone.
Yep.
Because he is new here, and he has a background in doing this. Where I think sometimes it's easy to say, because it's happened time and time again under different people, the top is the one you don't trust.
I would say, I don't want to speak for all Kings fans. I think there is a large portion of this Kings fan base that has faith in nobody and no part of this organization. And they're hoping the person that they are going to put their faith in is walking across that stage in a Kings draft hat on draft night.
Gotta have faith, the faith. Ooh, gotta have faith.
That's where I think the draft is for a lot of Kings fans.
That should be your guys' theme song for the until things turn back around. George Michael.
What song is
Faith.
that? I was born this century.
Oh, look it up, and can we play it coming into our next break? Faith by George Michael.
It's a good song.
It's a great song.
It's a good song.
And I think people need to hear it right now.
But the point is, like, a lot of the fan base is desperate to put their faith in somebody. They don't think Scott Perry has earned it, or they're concerned based off of how this season started. Mm-hmm. They don't trust ownership. They don't know if Doug's a good coach or not, and whether or not he deserved to be in the seat that he's in,
or if any of these players are good,
or any of these players. Like there's genuinely, like, top to bottom with this organization, it's hard to find anything to put your faith in right now as a Kings fan. So that means the young man that walks across that stage on draft night that the Kings select is going to take on a lot of that weight. Mm-hmm. Can that young man handle that too? That's going to be another question.
I don't know if it's Darren Peterson. Sorry.
Man, you ain't kidding.
I had to. I got to get my jab in there.
But it's not just a jab if it's true.
I know.